How's it going, guys? Fan here, and welcome to a bit of an update video. And I did mention that I was gonna make an update video because I feel like I owe you guys an explanation in regards to one interesting topic which has been recently made to light, known as skill-based matchmaking. So yeah, very quickly though, before we get into what I want to talk about, I will be including timestamps in this video, and I'll probably mention them either in the description or in the comment section itself. So if you want to skip to a certain part, if you want to, yeah, if you want to skip, or if you just want to, well, yeah, if you really, it's just really if you want to get to a certain part, I'll mention it in the comment section, and also. I want this to be a conversation as well, so do give me your input. Like, it's really important, and I'd love to hear what you guys would have to say regarding a situation or regarding this. And yeah, I just appreciate your feedback. So yeah, skill-based matchmaking. The latest or one of the newest things which have been coming, or which is going to come to Dead by Daylight, obviously attracted a lot of attention, and it's quite a big sort of um, thing because it's going to change the way we find games and how and who we play against. Now, I'll provide a bit of context for those of you guys who don't know me. I'll try and wrap it up. But I've been playing DBD for since near enough the beginning, not quite through beta, but I have been playing since December of 2016. So at the time I'm recording this, this is just gone 7 p.m. and we're in September, so near enough. I was to keep playing for another 3 months and a few weeks, then I would be playing or would have played for 5 years. But yeah, I also do have 8,900 plus hours on this game, so yeah, I've been streaming also for the past 2 years, ever since June 2019. So yeah, and I do play a lot of Killer. I do play a lot of Survivor. You guys are obviously seeing some Killer gameplay that I just picked out from a stream, which again I'll put Twitch links in the description below, and yeah, I'll put those down below, and I'll put in the social media too. But you know, point here I'm trying to make is that I've been playing since December 2016. The time the most recent killer that was brought to the game was Hag, and there were what like 6 killers in total and like 7 survivors. But yeah, I've been playing since um, very early, so I've been there with a lot of questionable updates, and I've also been there through a lot of the good updates too. This isn't me bashing on the devs because they produce a questionably or a questionable matchmaking system which has the community over up in the air. Um, and I will be getting into workarounds, but yeah, I've been there, and whilst at times the games haven't been enjoyable, and you think, okay, I'm just gonna take a break, go play something else, um, all that sorts of stuff. I don't know. I just feel like skill-based matchmaking is gonna be like one of the most controversial kind of updates, just because of what it'll actually do to like the game as a whole. I've thoroughly enjoyed playing this since December 2016. Like I said, I have taken breaks, extended breaks. Like I've taken like a month, 2 months, quite a few week breaks, and yeah, like I yeah, I always come back to the game because I know that when I play, at least for me, like I I I can't stand playing like the same killer. So I'll change up the killer that I play. I'll change up the builds that I play. Um, even on stream, like if you guys drop by my stream, you'll see killers that I tend to play often would be the killers like Trapper, Wraith, Doctor, Myers. I don't limit myself to the killers, and I actually have a thing, or I had a thing where people would be able to pick killers and randomize my perk build. So the point here I'm trying to make is that um, the game was always or for me at least, I always used to freshen things up, and that's where probably my biggest gripe comes into skill-based matchmaking is that I don't feel like the game is gonna like I feel like the game is actually gonna get worse in terms of repetitiveness. Um, you know, I'm usually a very calm person on a stream. I don't tend to get mad at DBD games even when I die playing Survivor or whether I don't or I have a bad killer game. I don't tend to get mad because when it comes down to it, I look at it and I think to myself, there's usually a an event or something in the game which leads to the eventual result. So whether I'm playing Survivor and and I'm the first one caught and I get chased and then get camped by the killer. Whilst it sucks at the killer's camp, I made the mistake of getting caught first. Um, or whether as killer I chase a survivor for an obscene amount of time and I end up losing the game because I allowed the remaining survivors to complete generators. Um, you know, I can self-reflect and understand that, you know, the point or at that point I usually lose in games because of decisions that I've made, and it doesn't come down to just like being like really angry and just finding an excuse to essentially blame someone or um, get really agitated at the game. And yeah, I've had like people say that like they really appreciate the fact that you know I stay calm and I don't get toxic because I actually like I get a lot of people in my stream. Um, they come in after I've had like a really good game against them and they just be really rude, or like whatever. Even if I have a bad game, there'll be people coming in and being insulting. But I like to think that I'm like beyond that. I don't like because I don't go on into streamers chats and berate them for their choices. Um, I would hope people would also do the same. But yeah, that's besides the point in for this particular video. But yeah, I've had a fun time streaming, and I do plan to continue streaming. But we'll talk about that later on in the video. But after streaming and a lot of hours that I do have on this game, like I said, I do have over 8,900 hours on this game that have stemmed for nearly 5 years, and a lot of them have come from streaming the game. I've had occasional streams which are like 2 to 3 hours. I've even had streams which have been upwards of 10, 12 hours. Even, um, you know, I can give you an example. I streamed, I think it was like back when COVID first hit. Like there was a month or there was a weekend or like 5 or 6 streams in a row where I was just streaming for like 8 plus hours. So like a week. I'm pretty certain it was at least five. So let's take that 40 hours. Um, obviously, um, at the time, what you don't also, or something you guys may not know, when I first got DVD, I used to share a computer, and I didn't play it as much as I do now, because I obviously had to share. I couldn't get as much time as I wanted to because I also had younger siblings who used it, and also it was my dad's computer, so yeah, there was 5 people basically sharing the computer. And what got me into streaming was the fact that I bought my own PC, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, you should record your gameplays or stream it." So that's why I actually got into streaming and produce content. And DVD was the game that people wanted to see. So I play it more. I used to play super. I say I used to. I like to think that even now I play pretty casually. Um, I don't play toxic. I like to think that everyone, especially when I play killer, everyone is given a chance. It's a little bit more difficult as survivor. I mean, what's the thing? What's something or what's a few things you can do when you're playing survivor that can give killers a chance? Maybe sabotage a hook, which takes no time, a totem, which takes around 15 seconds, searching a chest. There's a lot of there's a lot of things. There's a few things you can do as a survivor to give killers a chance, albeit they don't take as much time. But yeah, especially on killer though, I like to think that I do give people a chance to go and do stuff which will make them essentially not deep hip is what I want. I just want people to have fun in games they play against me. So yeah, and I feel like the skill based matchmaking is gonna take a lot of that away. So let's talk about why I don't like it. So I actually am reading off a script. I don't usually prepare videos, but I feel like this one is kind of if I write down the points and then at least in my head it'll be like, okay, I've said what I've said, um, and then I'm putting my point across. So again, will be putting timestamps. Feel free to engage in conversations because I want to hear what you guys have to say in regards to the skill-based matchmaking. So yeah, reasons why I don't like a skill-based matchmaking. So the first thing you got is unfun games. Now, I'm not saying that unfun games aren't a thing as they are currently. Technically, you can have an unfun game on DVD whenever, but I just feel like with people, especially killers are gonna be finding it really unfun. And if generally if a killer feels like they're not having fun in a game, they're gonna make it worse for the survivor. And then, I don't see particularly how it's fun for a killer to have to camp. And I don't see it fun for the killer because they're not engaging in chases. I don't see it being fun for the survivor because again they're just there waiting to die essentially. I don't think like having to sweat is like really good in this sort of game and falls into a couple of other reasons. So next reason I have is repetitiveness of builds. And again, with all of these you can put it into like today the game we are currently having or the game we currently have today. But you know, a lot of the time people run generator slowdown perks, and for example, people run ruin and dying, some people run ruin and pop. People run tinker as well with that. So um, yeah, it just the repetitiveness of builds. If anything, it's gonna lead to more of the same because people aren't gonna want to lose, especially at like the higher rank. People like or people act like they lose a game on DVD is gonna hurt their pride, and in a way like and there's a multitude of reasons. People won't want to lose. Um, Streamers they'll want to always do well because they might get berated by people in the chat and whatnot. But you know, you're gonna get to the point where you have repetitiveness with builds, and you're also gonna get repetitiveness at um, killer as well. Those survivors and those players who are at the high end points of MMR, you know, in my opinion, like they're gonna get bored quicker because um, how is anyone gonna have fun just going up against Nurse and Spirit all the time? Which those two are the two strongest killers in the game, and then you take like Ruin, um, Undying, Pop, Tinkerer. You know, you count on your hands like what kind of perks. So like I said, you got Ruin, you have Tinkerer, you have Undying, you have Pop, and you have Barbecue. I apologize about pausing that, but yeah, you have a few builds, and whereas right now you have what 23, 24 killers. How fun is it going to be going up against, let's say, the same old, uh, 4 out of 6, 7, 8 perks against the same two killers? I don't see it being really fun, and it'll get very boring very quickly, I reckon. Um, Next thing we got rewards. So what is it? I think if you get to um, or rank 1, you get 250k for each side. So like if you get rank 1 killer, you get 250k, and if you get to rank 1 survivor, you also get 250k. So a maximum of 500k blood points per rank reset. Now, I know a lot of people may think, oh, that's actually a good thing. I don't necessarily agree. And the reason for this is, you know, if skill based matchmaking is anything to go by, based off of further tests that we played through, a lot of the games are super stressful, and yeah, um, 250k. I can play 3 games. For example, Doctor because he's good at farming blood points. I can play 3 games of Doctor with 3 bloody pie streamers or 3 survivor puddings or anything that doubles my blood points basically, and also have barbecue as part of my build. And I can, if I get like for example 30k and get 4 barbecue and chili stacks, that's basically 90k because blood points are times by um, 3, so 30k would become 90k, and then yeah, times that by 3 is 270k, which is more than what you get for the proposed reward for being rank 1. And then, okay, so 3 games of killer, depending upon what time you queue up, um, you can play 3 killer games in an hour, and they want to propose making it so that you get 250k for having to basically put up with the game for a month of just like real and utter just you know I don't feel like it's really worth it. I feel like if they're gonna do this, they should um, increase the rewards to make it more worthwhile. Um, and then yeah, this leads on to my next point. So, um, is MMR actually punishing? Now, you might be a bit confused as to what I mean by the term punishing, but we don't know how MMR calculating is done. So we don't know what are the factors that leads to MMR going up and MMR going down. We can assume, for example, that MMR going up for killer, would increase significantly more if, let's say, for example, a person gets constant 4Ks. We can assume that um, for survivor's MMR is going to go up constantly if they have long chases and also escape every game that they play in. We can assume those kind of things, but without knowing, like, we without actually like knowing, like, is it actually like how is MMR actually going to be calculated? Now, I this isn't me saying tell us how they calculate MMR because you know people if you tell, especially on a game like DBD, if you tell the community how MMR is calculated and the kind of stuff that both increases and decreases the um, the skill rating for each player, then the people will just manipulate the system and find a way to constantly just um, de-rank themselves essentially. And again, that won't be fun on newer players. Not to mention, and I could be wrong, punishing is or this point that I made is probably the one that could receive a lot of um, dividing opinion that I could be looking at wrong. But say for example, a new player comes into the game. Is there some sort of uh, you know MMR tracking period? Say for example, your MMR is based off of the first 10 games you play. Is it based off of the first few? I don't know these kind of numbers. Um, but say, for example, a newer player and an older player, um, let's just say an older player was having really good games, and let's just say they get placed at, let's say, for example, 1,500 MMR, and I'm going to based off of other games, for example. Let's say they get placed at 1,500 MMR, and let's say a new player comes in, they have really good games, and the way the game sees it is, oh, this player's had a lot of good games. Um, should we place them at the same MMR thing? Now, this person, just newer players, for example, um, they could they could be placed at the same skill rating basically as a player with thousands of hours, and obviously the player with thousands of hours will have much more knowledge because um, they've played the game longer. And I'm not talking about people who create new accounts and smurf on their accounts because um, anyone can do that and it's not a true reflection. But I'm talking about if a completely new player sees the game, figures, this looks cool, I want to try it out. Then they buy the game, and let's say they do well, and then they get paired up with, say for example, a 3,000 hour survivor who has a vast experience on how to go up against all the killers in the game. They have many perks to their disposal that a newer player wouldn't. You know, it kind of seems like it's punishing for the newer player. So yeah, that's my point about punishing. And next thing we got is game balance. So what I wrote down for here is too much RNG for system to work. Which side is the actual power roll? So let's take the first part. Too much RNG for system to work. Obviously, if you guys play DBD, you know that there's quite a bit of RNG. For one, you have the maps. Then a map is never the same. You may have specific parts which are the same. Like for example, if you end up on, I'm just gonna use a coal tower as an example. That map there will always be a coal tower. There will always be a building located um, where there'll always be a building located in the same spot. The area around it might be different, and that's where the RNG falls into it. But there's too much RNG. Not only that, it also comes down to tiles and pallets. You could end up on a map with as few as I think 6 or 8 pallets, or you could end up on a map which literally has the most amount of pallets possible. And this comes down to like other things. They've addressed pallets and locker locations and a bunch of other stuff in previous updates. But again, this is going through time. They used to be in place, and you might see it in the gameplay. But on something like the outdoor maps, like the Macmillan Estate, Coldwind Farm, Azeroth, there used to be the jungle gyms, which is its own video in itself. But they used to have 2 pallets and a couple of windows. Um, you know, Locations often had 2 pallets beside each other, and you do get that in today's game, but not as often and not as frequently. So, yeah, there's too much RNG. The fact that, for example, um, you could load in a game as, um, let's just say, um, Wraith, for example, you could end up on a map which has um, basically so many pallets, or you could end up on in a match against a nerf where there's hardly fewer pallets. And yeah, I feel like too much RNG. I'm not saying and this, by the way, I'm not saying um, that the game should always be the same. The map should always be identical. Pallet spawns in the same location. Part of the excitement of the game is RNG, never knowing where something is. You know, um, you may constantly send yourself to, say, for example, Haddonfield, but you won't know the layout of it entirely, and things will change, and stuff like that. So I'm not saying make it so that things are just um, always the same, but I feel like there's a bit too much RNG in all of that, and the fact that people or players can get screwed over with lack of pallet spawns. Um, the fact that a killer can have a good game just because survivors have a lack of resources. Um, and vice versa, a killer can have a bad game because survivors have too many resources. I feel like, yeah, RNG isn't, like, if they were to balance the game, it'd be a little better for the system they are trying to push. And yeah, also, which side is the actual power role? I'm not going to get into too deep into conversation. People will argue that killer is the power role. People will argue that survivor is the power role, and my opinion is that you know this game is a 1v4, not a 1v1 between one killer and one survivor. So, I would naturally err on the side of caution, and that would be the killer should have more of the power role, and the survivors should have to work together in order to overcome the killer. And this isn't me saying, oh, killers should be made really OP and they should always get like a 4K. This that I don't think so. Um, but the fact that um, you know if I had to say, like, probably, I don't know, I wouldn't say one side has more power over the other, but it definitely feels like Survivor has a little bit more control, and like, yeah, a good survivor can waste a lot of killers' time, but I don't think, um, I don't know. I think the killer should be made a little bit more stronger, and survivors should have to uh, work together, and for example, um, one survivor distracts, the other three do gens, and say for example, rather than three people always having to do gens, make it so that make it so that maybe the survivor would have to go and help, and or one survivor may have to go off of the generator working on to help the survivors, so they can extend the chases that way. Um, I do feel like Killer is probably a little bit more stronger than, or I do feel Survivor is more stronger than Killer. Sorry, um, they kind of need to address that, and um, if they make it so that survivors would actually have to work together more instances to, then then maybe the system would work. Um, but as the game is right now, I feel like there's more power to the survivors than there is the killer. So that's why I feel like um, the balance they need to properly address that. Whether they do like a gameplay haul or like just overhaul stuff, you know, I don't know, but they need to address the balance and actually um, fix that, and then maybe this system would be a little better. And finally, this has been a thing which has been really bad lately, is um, hacking. So I've been in a fair few games. I think I may have it recorded and uploaded, or I did recently private my videos, but um, I was in a game once playing with a friend where we had like a hacker who basically froze the game and essentially made it so that we couldn't do much, and our games would freeze. We had to literally disconnect, which kind of sucks as it is, because you get a penalty for disconnecting, even though it's like something that's outside of our control. And I think I saw a post on Twitter recently where someone got banned because they modded a game, and easy anti cheat. That's the detection system that DVD use. And if they catch someone on that and they get banned, they are aware of it. They are aware of the risks, and that's what you kind of have to take with a pinch of salt. But hackers, they just make the game unfun, and they just exploit things that they shouldn't be able to. Flying, flying out of the map. Um, escaping in a trial when there are um, escaping in a trial when there are four survivors left and four generators still up. All that sorts of stuff. How is that fun? Like, it's not. I only feel like um, people will use hacks to easy the games and make it so that skill-based matchmaking isn't an issue. But they need to address the hacking situation, and yeah, like, honestly, once the hacks go, I feel like it's much easier to balance, because hackers will just exploit, or at the minute, hackers will, like, the state of the game doesn't matter to hackers, because they can just do whatever they want. They can spam them being put on the hook with no hook state depletion, because that's how their hacks work. They can do a multitude of things, but they need to address the they need to address the hacking because it's just gonna make like, and say for example all the hackers end up at the high MMR ranks. Is it fun for the people who have generally grinded there, who've worked their backsides off to go up against hackers every other game? You know, I don't like, even though I've been playing the game less and less. Um, I wouldn't want, for example, people to enjoy the game less because of hacking going on constantly, and people still get really annoyed. People even stream themselves hacking, which DVD still haven't done anything about the wide scale issues. So yeah, they need to address that, and I hope they do with their um, I hope they do with their upcoming um, or with the upcoming patches because there's quite a lot of work to do in that regard. Okay, so now that we talked about why I don't like the system, let's talk about potential workarounds. Now, again, feel free to provide any and all input um, as to what you guys think should be done, what shouldn't be done. But I put written 4 points in this section. The first thing is to make separate modes. So obviously we have kill your friends, we have survivor, and we have killer. Now, um, kill your friends is more of the casual mode, and playing killer, playing survivor um, is more of the um, ranked mode. But how about, and I know people have said this, but like, how about a actual like mode where, and I've seen this in like games like Rocket League, but they don't no longer have this. But say for example, it's just like um, a solo kind of mode. Now, what I mean by solo is that you obviously have survive with friends, which people have their own opinions on survive with friends. I won't really get into that, but make it so that people can't queue up together, and players can go in and essentially play a game and not have to worry about um, like communication with survivor friends, because that's its own conversation. Again, there's many videos I can make on some of these topics, but yeah, um, make it so that people can't queue up. So those people who don't have any people to play with but do want to play survivor or do want to play killer, can go into this mode and go into it like a casual mode and not have to worry about it. Also, make like, why not a mode that allows people to play like ranked? I'm at the point where I want to switch up my builds, play different killers, um, all that sort of stuff. And a skill-based matchmaking, I feel, will take that away. So why not like like a mode where people have the option. Hey, if you wanna play, play a ranked kind of mode, and it will increase your MMR and all sorts of stuff, and you can get rank rewards. But how about like a non-casual mode so people can play in those too, and also, you know, it won't really have a bearing. Kind of like how public test build, your information doesn't get carried over. They just take a profile capture of like a week prior or a certain number of days prior, and even if you like go from, let's just say, rank 1 to rank 5 on PTB, it won't carry over on the main game. So how about that? There's a lot of room. I do understand that with modes, for example, a vanilla mode was talked about, but people argue that the game at the minute is balanced around like 4v1 with perks. So you know again, could raise the same issues. You'd only see Nurse and Spirit because arguably those two are the only killers that can win without perks. I'm not saying killers can't, or not all killers can win without perks, but those two stand the best chance of winning with no perks. So yeah, but I do think they can make separate modes, and those people who want to play ranked and get rank rewards can do that, and also um, those people who don't want to play more casually can still play casually. Um, Improve the rewards. So as previously mentioned, the rewards for MMR at the minute with 250k if you got to rank one on each, which I feel like it's not really worth it. Just on what I said earlier, you can play um, you can play killer and get probably the same amount of blood points in 3 games, and it would cost what only an hour of time. So they could up the reward. BP blood points is easily obtainable. They could increase the number of blood points at the end. So whether they make it like 500k, a million. I don't know what that number would be. They could also provide shards, and this is another point now that I'll touch on it quickly. But with players like myself, um, I already have for killer at least every single perk on every single killer, um, and for survivor I have all perks on Jake, and survivors are just reskins. That's why I only am concerned about getting all perks on Jake because Jake is my main. But Bloodpoint isn't going to be useful to everybody. So how about some shards? And I guess shards could um, screw up the economy of the game, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be insane. How about like 500k and let's say like 2k shards? So essentially, if you have like a perk, or if you have all perks, 500k plus like the 2k shards, you could buy like a perk or two from the shrine if you don't have it, or a perk or two for extra blood points. I think that would be nice. Adding shards as an inclusion for reward would be quite nice. Again, let me know what you guys think. Um, Perk change up. So, one of the concerns that I expressed earlier was the fact that with skill based matchmaking, we run the risk of going up against the same few killers and the same builds all the time. So, how about a system in place which, for example, you have to change up each perk every game, and you have to change up every or each killer you play. Um, this is more like a killer thing. Or for the killer change up, it's more of a killer thing. But for perks, make it so that um, perks have to change up, so people won't be going up against Ruin, Undying, Tinkerer, Barbecue all the time, or have like maybe a ban system in place for like, let's just say, okay, if you play today, like kind of how Shrine of Secrets works, where you pick 2 killer perks and 2 survivor perks. Make it so that a few like perks are banned from the list, so you can't use them for like a set amount of time. So that maybe for example, let's just say DVD obtains stats, and they see that, or they see like, let's say the 4 most commonly used for perks for each side. Let's just say the 4 most commonly used perks for this 1 week are Ruin, Pop, Brutal Strength, and Monitor and Abuse. And let's just say for Survivor it's Adrenaline, Dead Hard, Iron Will, and Borrowed Time. Just make it so that those perks are banned for like a certain amount of time. Force people to change up their builds. Force people to come up with new perk synergies, and maybe that'll keep things or make things fresh. So yeah, um, that's what I think about the workarounds. If you guys have any workarounds, do let me know, and yeah, do share them in the comments. I would love to hear you guys' input, and this is more of like a engage in conversation and express or get or hear for me to actually read your viewpoints, because you guys might have different opinions compared to me. Finally, before we end this video, I do want to end it off by talking about the plan moving forward. So this isn't me saying that I'm going to quit streaming. I still want to continue that. I do stream 3 times a week, or at least try to, even though more recently I've only streamed twice a week. But I do want to end up streaming more often, and like, because of basically my work schedule, I'm working Tuesday to Friday. It means that I can only really stream from, let's say, Friday evening to and then my latest stream would probably be Monday afternoon. But yeah, I do want to continue streaming. This isn't me saying that I'm going to give up streaming, because I still feel like there's a lot to accomplish, and the community that's been built, um, we're great, and we can continue to grow, and it's great, and we can just build into something that we're all going to be happy with. So I'm going to put socials in chat as well. If you guys want to hop into Discord, follow me on Twitter or whatever, feel free. I do plan to continue streaming. In terms of what game, one of the game that I've been streaming recently is Rocket League. Um, you know, I've been wanting to get into other games like Phasmophobia again, Stardew Valley. If you guys want me to stream a certain game, put it in the comment section. I would love to hear um, what you guys would like to see, because um, you know, there's a certain element of it which is like, okay, a streamer has to enjoy what they're playing, but I also want to hear what you guys' inputs are and what you guys would like to see. So yeah, just let me know what you'd like for me to stream. I am at the minute considering, um, or heavily considering making Rocket League the main game, just because I've been having fun on it more often. I'm not the best at it, but it's something that more often than not is like it giving me like some sort of like stress relief. Um, it's been the game that, like, if I ever get bored or just don't want to play DVD, um, Rocket League is usually the game I'll turn to, and vice versa. Although I don't know how long DVD will fall a game that I or become a game that I fall back to, um, when they add the skill-based matchmaking. I do want to upload more regularly to YouTube. Again, that kind of falls into what to stream or play. I did upload 3v3 placements at the start of season 4 for Rocket League. We could record some Phasmophobia content. There's quite a few options. So once I work out like kind of the games that I want to play more often, then that'll make the uploading a little bit more easier. But then it would come down to me having to um, basically um, asking for your guys' input, which I do a lot on Discord. More reasons to join it, and another reason to join the Discord would be for community nights. I made like a promise back a while back to like hold more Discord community nights where we would hang out and where we would play games and just chill and talk. But we only really done that a handful of times. Most of the time when I hang out, or when I am in my Discord, it's usually to either post that I'm going live, to ask for you guys' input on like a pressing matter, or if I'm like playing with a friend and we don't want to get interrupted, and I just hop in my Discord. But yeah, those are the plans moving forward. Again, I want to thank you guys for being super chill and always just treating me well. Like, um, I'm just a random, I'm just a random dude playing games on the internet and hanging out and talking to you guys, and you guys treat me so well, and I'm always grateful for that. I do want to thank my moderating team as well. Stacy, Tia, Sophia, Ginger. Those guys are all great. They're super supportive. They always push the idea of doing what's best for me, and without them I wouldn't be able to have streamed consistently for as long as I have. um, but yeah, those guys are great, and um, without them, like, I don't know where I would be. Things would be a lot far more different to how they are now. So I want to thank those guys for just being the coolest human beings. Yeah, I also want to thank my community as well. They're always super supportive when I have doubts or when I have thoughts running through my head and I'm not sure what to do, or I just feel bad for making a decision. My community always reassures me. Um, Senri, I don't know if you'll watch this video, but if you're watching this, I appreciate you, man, so much. People are always supportive, telling me to do what's best for me. Like, even when I feel bad about certain decision, they'll be like, okay, don't feel bad, you're doing the right thing, um, all of that stuff. Um, I also want to thank many streamer friends that I do have that have just always accepted me into their communities, looked after me constantly. Um, I talk to a few streamer friends in the stream team that I'm a part of, Mothership 51. Lydia is one of my closest friends, and you know, I I I feel like I'm at home with a lot of the guys there because they're also streamers. They understand a lot of where I'm coming from, and I'm not saying that people who don't stream don't understand where I'm coming from. Um, yeah, there's a lot of people that are just super supportive. Even if you've watched my videos and if you watched my video once and commented once, I appreciate you guys. Um, but we'll figure out what's gonna happen next. But yeah, this has been us, and more of like speaking from the heart on this one. I'm gonna add timestamps again, like I said, to the video. So, um, you know, feel free to skip to whichever part you guys want to hear about. And yeah, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like, leave a comment, and please engage with all the like points that I made. I want to hear what you guys' inputs are, and yeah, I will see you guys very soon. So yeah, much love and goodbye.